of the Amid on Amid Vav Amid Beis. It starts over there. Amar of Chia by Abba Amar of Yechanan. Give him a Gemara.
Thank you. Ready? Go.
Okay. Gemara says as follows. We're talking here about Yosef now. We didn't get to Yehuda yet. We'll soon get what Yehuda. But while we're talking about Yosef, so the Gemara is going to tell another part about the history of Yosef. Amar B'chia Baba Amar Rabbi Yechanan. B'shor Shamoy Parei uYosef. When Parei said to Yosef, "Ubila decha v'yorem ish es yodai v'sragai." Amrit stagnine Parei, the stargazers of Parei. Evet shalokhay Rabbi be'esem kesef tamshilei aleinu. You're going to make him. So why did they emphasize the esem kesef? Because the esem kesef was a small amount of money. So in other words, you got him very cheap. It's a simon that it even shows less what he's worth. If you got him for a big amount of money, we don't understand it. There's something special about him. But what's special about this fellow? Omar Lahan, so Parei said to them, Ganvone Malchus Aniraya, by I see him certain rays of kingship. Omar, so they said to him, Im Kain, if so, Yehayadeh B'Shivim Loshen. Let's see if he knows 70 languages. Bo Gavriel, came Gavriel, V'Limdoi, and he taught him B'Shivim Loshen. That the Gemara, Loi Havi Kagama. Yosef couldn't catch on to learn it so quick by says. So the Gemara, Hoysef Loi Ois Achas Mishmai, Shal Kadosh Baruch Hu. They gave him one letter from the Eibush. That's the hay that we said before. We said the hay was because of his Kiddush Shem Shemayim. Now he's saying another reason. B'lamad, and he learned it. Shenema Eidus B'Hoysef. Samai, they put an Eidus for Yosef. But say so that it's Mitzrayim. When he had to go to say, Parei took him over Mitzrayim. So at that time, Gabriel taught his pasuk state, Eidus Yosef, Svas lo yadati Eshma. Yosef said, Svas lo yadati Eshma. I learned a new language. Derech Agav, there's a question that the Mefarshim asked by the Chalemis. How did Parei have Chalemis? And he said he called all his advisors, and Vein Paisais no Parei. Comes along this Jewish boy, and he tells Parei a story with seven years and everything. Oh, he's a genius. Where did Parei see the genius of Yosef? So there's Mefarshim that say that Parei wanted to see if Yosef has it, so he tricked Yosef. In the pasuk state, but that when he cholemed, what did he dream? He cholemed v'hinei omed al sfas hayar. I'm standing by this sfas hayar, and I saw coming up cows and everything, right? Yosef, he didn't want Yosef to think that he's a crazy person who has a dream that you're standing on the yar. He said to him, "Hini aymed al hayar." In fact, he dreamt Hini aymed al yar, and he told Yosef, "Hini aymed al sfas hayar." Yosef interpreted everything except the meaning of his business with sfas. Why? Because it wasn't in the dream. So Eidus, it said Eidus by Yosef, approved that Yosef was really the right person, because Sfas lo yodati eshma. I hear the word Sfas, but I don't know what it means because it wasn't in your dream. So then he saw that Yosef caught him, so then he knew that Yosef was really something. Okay. So the Gemara, Ulumocha, the next day, Kol Rishna de Ishtoi Parei Behedeh, every language that Parei spoke with him, to see if he knows the languages, is he answered him back in that language. Ishtoi iu. So Yosef spoke to Parei b'lashon kodesh. V'lehavi kayoda. My havi Omer. He didn't know what Yosef was saying. Amalei, he said to him, Egmeri, teach it to me. To Nulang. So Agmerei, V'le Goma. Yosef tried to teach it to Parei, and Parei couldn't catch it on. Amalei, so Parei said to Yosef, Ishtabali, I'm making you swear to me, Delay Megalis, so that you're not going to tell anyone that I don't know this language, because otherwise I'm Mois Melech. Ishtabali, so Yosef swore to Parei that he's not going to tell anyone. What happened? Ki Amalei, when Yankov died, so Yosef comes to Parei and he says as follows: Ovi Ishbiani Lamer, my father made me swear as follows that I wouldn't bury him in Mitzrayim. So I want permission to leave Mitzrayim to take him to Eretz Yisrael. Omer Lei, so Parei said to Yosef, Zil Ishtaber Ish P'usach. Go be like, just like we have an Indian being mated another, so you could also ask, be shoyel on a shvua, and the chacham could be cancel it for you. Amalei, she said to him, listen, you wise guy, you're telling me such a thing. Ishtali nami adidoch. If I'm going already to cancel my shvua, I'll cancel the other one also, the one that I made to you. And you'll be in trouble. Even though Parei wasn't happy, for Desragan, Amalei said, Alei ukvar esavira kasher hishbiyacho. Okay, this finishes the Inyan of Yosef. Now we said that there was also Yehuda was Mekadesh Shem Shemayim begalu publicly. So the Gemara Yehuda Mahi. What was the story about Yehuda? So the Sanya we learned. Hoy Rabbi said, Kishaomdu Yisrael Alayom Hoyu Shvatim Menatzchim Zeh Im Zeh. There was a dispute between the Shvatim. Zeh Omer Ani Yared Chil Liyam, V'Zeh Omer Ani Chil Liyam. Each one wanted to be the first one to go into the Yam. What happened? Kofat Shifta Shal Binyamin. Binyamin Shevet jumped up front, and they jumped in. V'Yarad Liyam Tchila. Shenema Shom Binyamin Tzoye Roidem. So the word Roidem comes from the word daber, leading, ruling. So Atikri Roidem Ella Rod Yam. He went down to the Yam. Yehuda Roigim Oisam. So the people, the heads of Yehuda, were stoning them. Shenema Sari Yehuda Rigmosam. That the leaders of Yehuda threw stones at us. Therefore, because Binyamin was the first to go, Zocha, he was Zocha, Binyamin Tzaddik, Shvenasa Ushpezichon Gvurim. He became a host to the Eibishter. He became a host to the Eibishter means that when they built the Beis HaMikdash in Eretz Yisrael, it was part on one person's land and part on Binyamin's land. Which part was on Binyamin's land? The part of the Kodesh Kedoshim was on Binyamin's land. Shenema, Shtetin Pasuk, Bank Seif of Shochin. By the brachas that Yankov gave, Yankov said he will rest between his shoulders. That means that in between, that's in between us. Rabbi Yehuda said, no, this isn't what happened by the Yam. Ella, what happened was, everyone said, I'm not going to be the first. Each Shevet was saying, I'm not going to be the first to go in.
You go first.
They didn't want to take the chance. Kofetz Nachshon ben Aminadav, v'yorad liyam tchila, shenema svavuni b'chachash Ephraim, u'v'mirma beis Yisrael, v'Yehuda Oid Rod Im Kel, that Rod means he went down with the Eibishter. V'orav Mefarish B'Kabbalah, and on him there's a pasuk in Tanakh where he said, Hashieni Elkim, Kibo Mayim Ad Nofesh, that he jumped in so the water came up, Mamash, he was almost about to drown. Tavati Bivain Mitsula, I sunk into the depths. Ve'ein Mamad, and I can't get up. Al Tishafeni Shabaylas Mayim, the flow of water shouldn't drown me. V'al Tivla'eni Mitsula, let the abyss, the bottom of the ocean, shouldn't swallow me in. V'oisa Shor, Haya Moshe Marach B'Tfilah. Moshe was davening, Oh my Kadosh Baruch Hu, Yedidai, my friends, means Yehuda, my friends is Tayvim B'Yam, V'ata Marach B'Tfilah L'Fonai. Oma Fonai B'Ribono Shel Olam, B'Yodilad, what else can I do? Oma he said to him, Dabav Neisov Yisrael, and told the Yidden that they go ahead, and V'ata and you, Harim Esmat, lift up your stone, Unatei Yotcha, stretch out your hand, and Leficha, Mele and the Yamel Uspaltzach. So because Yehuda was the first one to jump in, Nachshon another was the Nasi of Yehuda, Leficha, therefore, Zocha Yehuda, Lasois Memshola B'Yisrael. Yehuda was Zocha to Malchus, to Shenema, Hoysa Yehuda L'Kotshei, Yisrael Mamshalaisik. He was a Moshel over Yisrael. Matam, what's the tam? What is the pasuk saying? It's telling you as follows. My tam, Hoysa Yehuda L'Kotshei. Why was Yehuda so holy? Because Yisrael Mamshalaisik, because he became the ruler over Yisrael. Mishum, why did all this happen? Mishum da Yom Rov Ayonos. It's all pasuk in the Masechtas in Mitzrayim. Something more. Tanya, we learned. Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov Eimer, Ef Shaloima. Now the question is, we're going back now by the Hagrizim and the Har Evel. By the Hagrizim and the Har Evel, according to the Pashup Pshat and the Pasuk, Kumtais, that on one mountain was standing 6 Shvatim, and on another mountain was standing another 6 of the Shvatim. And according to the Pashup Pshat in the Pasuk, Levi was one of the on one of the mountains. He was on the side together on Hagrizim. So the Gemara, you know what? Ef Shaloima, you can't say that Levi Lamata. Shekva Nema Lamayla, it says that he was Lamayla. B'ef Shaloima Lamayla, you can't say that he was Lamayla. He was on top of the mountain. Shekva Nema Lamata, because it says that Levi was Lamata. So how do we figure out the psukim that everything should be correct? He says, Zikni Kahuna Levia Lamata. The elders from the Kahanim and Levia were down on the bottom with the Aron, Vashar Lamaila. And the rest of Shevet Levi, the younger members of Shevet Levi, they were up on top. The Yashaimer, he says different. He says the Shevet Levi was like a split, somewhere on top and somewhere on the bottom. But he says the split was as follows: a Levi has to be between the age of 25 and 50. In order,
30 to 50.
30 and 50. In order to do it, 5 years he's supposed to train. And so he's Roy Gushores between the age of 30 and 50. So he says, Kol Roy Gushores, it was Lamata. Vashar and the old peoples that passed that stage already, they were Lamayla. And Rabbi Yomer, Elu be'elu, that means all the people. That all the people were not on the mountain. A different pshat. There's one opinion we have in the Gemara that half of them were on one mountain and half on the other mountain, and the Gehanim and the Levim were down below together with the Aron. This opinion is saying that Elu be'elu lemata heimimdim. Everybody was down between the two mountains. No one went up to the mountains. And Hafchu Pneim Klapi HaGrizim, when all the people turned to HaGrizim, Paschu Bebracha. and Klapi had Evo is Poschu Bekol. So if you say, I state al, what does al means on? So he says, my al means besamach, means near. Kedesani we learn, v'nesata al amarechas, v'vaynazako, state that by when you had the lechem upon him on the table. So there was like six rows, one on top of the other, and then it says there was spice. There was a cup with spice. So state v'nesata al amarechas v'vaynazaka. You should put on top. What does it mean? When Rabbi Yomer, so over there they didn't put on top of the bread number 6. They put it on the table. So what does it mean? Sotah al marachas? It means near the row of the breads. You should put the levina. So Rabbi Yomer, that al is besamach. That over there by the lechem upon him, it means near to it. But he says as follows: al besamach. You are telling me that al means besamach, not on top. Maybe al means mamish, that you should put a tak on top of the bread. Where do you get the idea that al doesn't mean on top? So he says, Kashu Ayman, Bisakaisa al Arain, it states that the paroiches will cover on the Aran. Now the paroiches wasn't on top of the Aran. So Rabbi Yomer said, that proves you that al is besamach. Al means near. Okay. Now we're going back to how it worked with the brachas and the klolos over there. So Gemara says as follows: Tandar Rabbanan, Baruch b'kal, u'Baruch b'prat. In other words, over there, if you look in the Pasha, so Shteit over there listed a number of things, order that will do this, order that will do this. And then it also says, Baruch Hashiyakum is Divrei HaTorah Zos. So he's saying now that on every mitzvah in the Torah, when it was given, there was a Baruch B'Kal and a Baruch B'Prat. In other words, the Baruch B'Kal was in general, Baruch Hashiyakum is Divrei HaTorah Zos. And also, then there was the pratim of the mitzvah. But every mitzvah had in it a general part. So the Gemara, that's called Baruch B'Kal. Baruch B'Kal means Baruch Hashiach Divrei Torah Zos, and Orah B'Kal, and then Baruch B'Prat. There was Baruch on the mitzvah itself, and then Orah B'Kal. There was a general order Shel Lo Yakum is Divrei Torah Zos. And then there was order b'prat and an individual order. Okay. In addition to that, there was with every mitzvah there came along four details. What were the 4 details? Lilmoid u'elamed, that you should learn it and you should teach it. Lishma, you should observe it. Belasas, and you should do it. So now, Arei Ava. So these 4 things that we just mentioned now, the Lilma, the Lamed, Lishma, Belasas, is a total of 4 things that was by every mitzvah. So now, he says, Alba v'alba, Harei Shmoina. If you add up, let's take Lilmoid. You take Lilmoid and Lulamid. Let's take Lilmoid. If by Lilmoid there was four things, Rishma, Gasa, okay. So Harei Kan Shmoina. So the 2 things the 4 things by two details is up to 8. And Shmoina. In other words, there was the other 2 of Rishma V'Lasas, another 2, and also the Kal and Prat. So that is up to another 8. So Shmoina, Harei Sheish Esrei. In other words, if you count all the times by a mitzvah that they said the 4 things bekal and the 4 things befrat, that order if you will not be mekayim, order if you not learn baruch, if you will learn, order if you not watch baruch, if you don't watch, that adds up to 16. Now, these 16 times are the bris that the Eibishter made with Yidden about observing the Torah. So the Gemara says, if there was a bris, the Gemara said, "V'chein b'Sinai." This was saying was by when they crossed the Yarden. So now he's saying "V'chein b'Sinai," and the same thing by Sinai when the Eibishter gave the Torah, it was also the same seder. These 16 times that accompanied a mitzvah. And v'chein ba'avos mayav. Avos mayav was what we learned in the beginning of Dvarim, before Moshe died. Shteit echad beir as atayra azois heitev. So also again these 16 times. So now, if 3 times these 16 general and individual and baruch and order were repeated again, so how many times was it repeated? 16 times 3 is 48. So Gemara says, Shenema, Ega Divrei Abris, Asher Tziva Hashem es Moshe, that's 1. Uksiv Ushmatim es Divrei Aziz Hazais, that's the 2nd time. And we have here now also, Nimtza Kumtais, we call it Bris. Bris is the covenant that the Eibishter made with Yidden. So Kumtais, if we say, Mem Ches Brises are called Mitzvah. You have 48 brises on each mitzvah. Now the Gemara says, how are we counting the 48? Because we're counting Sinai, and we're counting Avos Mayav, and we're counting Hagrizim Haravel. That's how we're counting it. So the Gemara, Reb Shimon Moitzi Hagrizim. Reb Shimon says no, by Hagrizim it wasn't. Machnes Oyel Moed. He says first the Eibush gave it to by Sinai, and then later when they came into Oyel Moed again, the Eibush went through all these brises, these 16 brises. Ubeputta Dehani Tanoi. Their machlokes is based on these Tanoi. What's it mean? The Sanim are going. Rabbi Shmuel says, Klovis Namro B'Sinai, Uprotes B'Oyel Moed. That when the Eibush gave the Torah, in Sinai it gave the general Torah, not the details. But she said, make a korban, but he didn't tell all the details, how you make a korban, what you do with a korban. And Rabbi Kiva says, Klovis Uprotes, Namro B'Sinai, V'nishnu B'Oyel Moed, V'nishtalshu B'Avos Mayav. So you see over here that there's a question, if by Sinai everything was given, or there wasn't given, so maybe you can't count this. You have to count from Oyel Moed. If you hold that everything was given by Sinai, then you count Oyel Moed, then you count Avos Mayav. So he said that this machlokes before depends if you count Sinai, you don't count Sinai. Depends if you hold Kol Supratas Nemru B'Sinai, and maybe you didn't have to repeat it by Oyel Moed, or Kol Supratas Loy Nemru B'Sinai, and it was first given by Oyel Moed, and that it depends. So the Gemara, Ve'ein lecha kol mitzvah sheksuva b'Torah, every mitzvah that's written in the Torah, shalei nichnasu oleha, that there wasn't a bound of aboyim u'shmoine brises, 48 brises. That's one opinion over here. Reb Shimon ben Yehuda ish kfar Akku. Reb Shimon ben Yehuda of Akku, Oma, he said in the name of Reb Shimon, Ein lecha mitzvah u'mitzvah sheksuva b'Torah shenichnasu oleha abo u'shmoine brises. I agree that every mitzvah had 48 brisas with it. Shel sheish meyes ve'elef u'shreishes alofim v'chamesh meyes v'chamishim. This was the amount of yidden. So every mitzvah to every yid was given with the 48 brisas. Omar Rabbi said, "L'divrei Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda ish kfar Aku, shenema she'omar that said Mishum Rabbi Shimon, einecha kol it should be einecha kol mitzvah shebetorah shaloi nichos aleh aboim u'shmeina brisas shel sheish meis elef u'shreishes alofim v'chamesh meis v'chamishim v'chol echad v'echad miYisrael sheish meis elef u'shreishes v'chamesh meis v'chamishim." So it seems that they're saying the same thing, but one repeats two times the number of 600,350 Jews, and one repeats one time. In fact, the Gemara, my benai, what is over here? The difference between what the Shimon said. The Rabbi has one version, and the Shimon has another version. What's the difference? So the Gemara, Ike benai, the difference will be, my benai, what's the difference? Omer of Shausha said, Alva v'Alva the Alva, Ike benai. That means that there's a Gemara that says that Kol Yisrael Arevim Zeh B'Zeh. The question is now, when the Eibusher gave the Torah, did he make a bris with each Jew for himself, or each Jew is also an order for someone else? That the bris also included a bris that you will be responsible for the other person also. So this is the machlokes between Rabbi and Reb Shimon, if it's only was for the individual Jew, or also responsibility as an order, Alva the Alva. So you are an order, and you're responsible for the Alvas of the other Jew. Something more Dorish, Rabbi Yehuda ben Nachmani, Metogamina, the Reb Shimon ben Lakish. Rabbi Yehuda ben Nachmani was the Metagaman. Metagaman means the one that would say over, not like Rabbi Yoel or Shalom. Rabbi Yoel was a chayzer, that he remembered, and he later thought, but in the olden days, when the Rosh Hashiva would give a shir, he wouldn't speak loud, and they didn't have loudspeakers. It didn't feel comfortable to scream loud, so he had a meturgaman that stood on his side that said over right away to the people, or explained to the people what the Tana said. He says as follows. There's this portion of the Torah about the brachas and the kolas by Har Grizim Har Eil. So he says as follows: Kol aparsha kula le'nemra ela b'nayif v'ne'efes. It's all talking about adultery, and it explains. Oro yesh sheyasa pesel masecha. Zat the Gemara ba'ora sagilei. That's all you have for someone that makes a avodah zarah, a lav. It must be something deeper. So what does it mean? Ela zu haba ala eva v'hoyle ben v'holach ben ovik achavim v'ovid avedis kachavim. Is arurim ovid v'im shozeh shekach gomrei. That's what Pesach Masechta means. That they created a child that's a neighbor of avodah zarah. And how did they do it? Because they had an illegal relationship. He doesn't go into explain all of them, but he's saying everything over there gets explained b'negei to Nayef and Nayefes. So tomorrow Ton Rabban steht in Pasuk Satas Abracha al Hagrizim. Vesakol Har Evo. My Talmudim. What does it want to tell you? Im Lulamed Shetei Bracha al Hagrizim. Ukol Har Evo. Harek Vanema Elu Yamdu Levarek Esaom al Hagrizim. Uksiv Elu Yamdu al Kol Har Evo. So what does he want with this person? Sotah lahagdim bracha l'kala, that you start first with baruch and then ora, not the reverse. So the Gemara, Yochel yiyah kol brachas kaidmus l'kolas. I may think that first say all the baruchs, all of them, and then later say all the kolas. Talmud Lema steht in Pasuk, bracha u'kola. Bracha achas kaidemus l'kola. That no, it went one bracha, kola, then one bracha and kola. The ain't kola brachas kaidmus, ain't kola bracha kaidmus l'kola. And not first all the baruchs and then the kola. Or hakesh, and also the Tosfos wants to be makesh, compare bracha l'kol, le'melach, ma kol b'leviyim, av bracha b'leviyim. That the Leviyim were the one that said both of them, because the Leviyim and Kahanim standing down there. So you may think that maybe the bracha was from one group and the kol from another. No, everything was from the Leviyim. Uma kol b'korom, just like a kol had to be loud, av bracha b'korom. Uma kol b'lashon hakodesh, af bracha b'lashon hakodesh. Uma bracha b'kal u'b'prat, because it said baruch asher yokem and ora asher lo yokem. Af bracha b'kal u'b'prat. Uma kol elu v'elu amen. They answered amen, that they accepted it. Af bracha elu v'elu einim amen. Everybody accepted it.
Now you had 22,000 Leviyim. You had 22,000 Leviyim. All 22,000 together. They said it together in unison. How did it work?
Why is it so difficult for you to